chug, 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 chug.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Wizard Staff Podcast. I'm your host Blake.
And I'm Guy.
And we are two drunk novices who like to talk about EDH. We do drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly when playing children's card games. So, we are here in part 2 of our back-to-back episodes, talking about the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. In the previous episode, we talked about all of the possible commanders you could have, and our thoughts on those commanders. Now, we are moving into more of like the 99, the main deck cards that you're going to put in like the huge, like thick handful of cards you're going to play for your main deck.
Firmly grasp it.
Especially if it's double sleeved, then that motherfucker's like thick as a brick. So in this episode, I am switching it up and I am trying Excelsior Baked Apple Pie, which very much does indeed taste like an apple pie. It's very sweet and it's very apple-y. I am on a cider kick. And it is 8.4. Holy shit. I didn't realize it was 8.4. But we're going to get through this episode and have a dandy time. What about you, Guy?
Yeah, I'm still drinking my Guinness. So, I feel like yours is a very fall-themed drink. So, good for you.
Well, we're not at Thanksgiving yet, which is probably a good thing.
Only 2-3 days away.
Really? Oh, fuck, it is. Anyway, we are talking about the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and we've already talked about all the mechanics in the previous episode, like, including Craft and Discover, so, like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just ready to dive in. We're going to go in Wooburg order, meaning white, blue, black, red, green, colorless, and multicolor, if that's good with you.
That's how we've done it. Let's go. Alright.
So, do you want me to do this one, or the next one?
Start us off.
Alright, this one is Dauntless Dismantler. It is 1 and a white for a creature, human artificer, 1/4, that says artifacts your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So right away, that's really similar to Blind Obedience, which is a single white mana enchantment that has the same effect. So already, that's pretty good. And then it has an activated ability of XX white. Sacrifice Dauntless Dismantler. Destroy each artifact with mana value X. And the closest similar card I can compare it to is Gorilla Shaman. Specifically, Gorilla Shaman with baby art. If you don't know what I'm talking about. Gorilla Shaman is a red card that says XX1, destroy target non-creature artifact with mana value X for a single red mana Ape Shaman. So like this is like kind of like the white counterpart to that, where it just says like fuck your opponents and fuck their artifacts. Like not only do they enter attack, but they also can destroy it if you have enough mana. Am I wrong?
No, and it's 2 mana. And it's a 1/4. Like, I think that's actually a huge upside to it, because, like, it doesn't die to bolt. It kind of reminds me of how, like, people are frustrated with, I guess, Strain of Magistrate is a 1/3. I thought it was a 1/4. My bad. But, yeah. It's got a big butt. It can't die that easily.
So, because of that reason, like, it's just like 2 pretty good effects on a single body. It sort of reminds me of... Guy, help me remember. What's that one enchantment that makes your opponent's spells cost 2 less and I can sacrifice it at instant speed to like blow up an artifact or enchantment?
Aura of Silence.
Aura of Silence. Thank you for reminding me of the own cards I play. Thank you very much. Love you. So it reminds me of that, where it's like, hey, it's like a hate effect, and then at the very least, like I can like sacrifice itself to like destroy an issue of mine specifically. That's how I view it, and it's like a good rate, and it's a good body. I don't necessarily know if it's CDH viable, but like I can definitely view this as like a silver bullet card to where like you're just tired of your opponents playing artifacts and you're just like, fuck you, I played Dauntless Dismantler.
No, I totally think it's CDH viable in certain strategies. I mean, it turns off treasure tokens, turns off your dockside.
That is all very true. Yep.
This next one, though, kind of, I think, is borderline also CDH viable. It's Charismatic Conqueror. 1 and a white, creature, vampire, soldier, vigilance. Whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped and under an opponent's control, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, you create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. So, and it's a 2/2. So in a similar vein of Dauntless Dismantler, this just kind of says, hey, if you don't, tap your stuff, I'm just going to get a bunch of creatures. Like, okay, Dockside comes in, makes 8 tokens. Are those going to all come in tapped? No? Okay. Then here's 8 vampires.
Yeah, I mean, I basically view this as like a small white mana creature that generates you tokens, right? I think that's how most people are evaluating this card.
Mm-hmm.
And up until now, I think like the best card we've had for that is like Monastery Mentor. Again, a small mana value white creature that generates you tokens based on what you play. This one is asking more of like punishing your opponents for just like casting just like typical spells in Commander, right? And like your Commander opponents are greedy. They are. They're not going to tap their shit because they want to then use that stuff to like extend their plays to like ramp them or like get them value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like they're never going to tap their shit. So you're always going to get the tokens, right? So like in my mind, Charismatic Conqueror and Monastery Mentor are both like on par in terms of like small white mana creatures that make you white tokens. Am I wrong?
No.
No. So I feel like I love this card. Like, is this gonna like break Commander and like make it so you win tons of games? No, but it's a great value piece. That's how I view it.
I agree. Yeah.
Alright, let's move into blue. Because again, we're going in white, blue, black, red, green, colorless, and multicolor order. So this next one is the Enigma Jewel. It's a single blue mana, so you can play this on turn 1. It enters the battlefield tapped. However, it can tap to add 2 colorless and spend this mana only to activate abilities, which if you build your deck around it is not that difficult. And then you can craft with 4 or more non-lands with activated abilities for 8 and a blue, which is a lot of mana. So like 9 mana. And then it converts into a legendary artifact called Locus of Enlightenment. And Locus of Enlightenment has each activated ability of the exiled cards used to craft it. You may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. But if you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This card is basically begging for you to like abuse the shit out of it. Am I wrong?
No, and it's really tough to say like what is like the ideal setup with this card. So it does require 4 more non-land cards, so you can actually just do as many as you want for the 9 mana. It just needs to be like a minimum of 4. But yeah, I feel like if you're already going all in on the 9 mana, you just want to like get as many effects as you can.
Yeah.
And then you can basically like double that. So this does feel like something that like you would want to win with quickly after playing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like how this is like if your commander has an activated ability, this is great. It's a great turn 1 play. Then you play your commander turn 2, and then like turn 3 you can like tap this to like activate your commander's ability. That's where I view it. And then like if you just happen to have a whole bunch of like activated abilities, like maybe you can craft this for 9 and do some really powerful things. I don't think it's busted.
Alright, so next we have the Ever-Flowing Well. legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. It has Descend 8. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, transform the Everflowing Well. And then it goes into the Myriad Pools, which is a legendary artifact land. Tap, add blue, or whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by the Myriad Pools, up to one other target permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell until end of turn. Seems pretty good.
It really does. Like, at the very least, like, you can flicker this son of a bitch to, like, enter the battlefield, like, mill 2, draw 2, which is very good. And then at the, like, in addition to that, like, Descent 8, which isn't that difficult in Commander, like, you transform it into a land, which ramps you, and then, like, also, it doesn't flip back into the Everflowing Well, like the gods. This just ramps you, and then it also is, like, whenever you use this land to, like, cast a permanent spell, you're gonna make another one of those things, so it's just a great value bullshit.
Yeah. Pretty good.
I'm excited about this next card, so I want to talk about it.
Go for it.
Alright, so this is Tishana's Tidebender. It is 2 and a blue for a creature Merfolk wizard. It is 3 and a blue creature, again, with flash, so that's good. So when it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana's Tidebender remains on the battlefield. Man abilities can't be targeted. So, basically, your opponent is, like, doing bullshit. And so, like, your opponent then puts the bullshit on the stack. Your Tishana's Tidebender is like, flash it into response, even though it's a creature. I will counter it on the stack, and therefore it's useless the rest of the game as long as Tishana's Tidebender stays on the board. Or, you've cast some bullshit, and you've now, like, triggered it, which happens quite a lot in Commander, and you're like, no more. Tishana's Tidebender, I'm going to counter that, and now it's basically useless because it loses all of its abilities as long as the Tidebender stays on the field. So I feel like this is just kind of like a staple in Merfolk typal or even Wizard typal because it is also Wizard. The only it stops it on the stack, it stops it after the stack. The only thing it doesn't do is like stop things before the stack, but that's really the only other quadrant you can really gauge this card on. Like, I actually think this card is pretty good. CDH people are talking about whether or not this card is bad or good, and I don't really care about that, but like, I just care about the fact that like, this card is a pretty unique effect that hasn't really existed. It stops creatures, which are very common in Commander. They stop artifacts, which is very common in Commander, and as a small plus side, they stop planeswalkers, which are not as much of a thing in the Commander format. However, if you actually see a planeswalker in Commander, that means your opponent's doing some real bullshit, and like, you definitely want to stop that shit. So like, I like it for that reason too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this card just can kind of go in any type of like blue counter matters type deck. Counter as in like the counter spell, not put a counter on something. I do think it's interesting that planeswalker abilities can be, you know, countered this way or even like prevented. It's not something you see often, but yeah, I'm trying to think like what are the best things to counter with this.
Well, like, I don't like imagine. Okay, for example, it doesn't stop. Okay, I will say this: it doesn't stop enchantments, so it doesn't stop your opponents from doing bullshit like Rhystic Study, right? But it does stop stuff like that Galta we talked about earlier. It does stop a lot of other activated abilities. It stops like the O'Hare Kaslim. It stops like the mono red god because that's a combat trigger. It stops the mono black, it stops the mono blue, it stops the mono white. It can do a whole bunch of things just as a small sample size.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Can counter Dockside at least as well.
Yeah. The only downside is it doesn't stop like enchantments, which have a whole bunch of triggered and activated abilities, but it stops creatures and artifacts, which are like two of the major other permanent types that you'll see in this format.
Yeah. Alright, we got the Indomitable, which is 2 blue, legendary artifact vehicle, trample. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. It has crew 3. And you may cast the Indomitable from your graveyard as long as you control 3 or more tapped pirates and or vehicles. And it's a 6/6. So, pretty good. I mean, I think it goes best in pirate decks. Because if you really want to like abuse this, you want to make sure that you can cast it from your graveyard as often as you can. And I guess you accrue the pirates to turn this into a creature. Let's say this dies, then you could recast it from your graveyard because the pirates are what crewed this.
I agree with you. Like, where if you want to make the most value out of this card, you do want to play like pirate typal or vehicle typal, but on its own, like it's 4 mana artifact that like says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's basically like Biden of Thassa, Coastal Piracy, Reconnaissance Mission, but the benefit of this is that like you can crew for 3, which isn't that difficult in like mono blue decks. And like this now will like becomes a 6/6 with trample and like can draw the cards off of it and trigger itself, which is why I am really high on this card.
Alright.
Alright, so now we are moving into black. We are getting there, folks. We're about halfway. This is Bitter Triumph. It is a single, colorless, and a black for an instant that says, as an additional cost, cast a spell, discard a card, or pay 3 life. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So, in my opinion, this is a card that has definitely gone under the radar for Commander players. Because the small downside of discarding a card or paying 3 life, we all know we start at 40 life. 3 life is nothing. So like we can do that, or we can discard a card. We also live in Commander, where like we have a shit ton of cards. We don't care. We can discard a card. So it's basically 2 mana, instant speed, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Yeah? So like, that's on par with Snuff Out, Infernal Grasp, Go for the Throat, all very much some of the best premium removal in mono black decks. And yet, people are not talking about this. I am honestly surprised. Guy, is there something I am missing?
I don't think so. I mean, it's too good of a rate to not consider it. And the fact that it is instant speed, it does seem like it should be a black staple at this point. Or
because it's like, staple. Destroy any creature. Oftentimes it's like non-black creature or non-artifact non-black creature.
Right.
But like this is just straight up destroy target creature or planeswalker. So like it has upside. Like it will also destroy a planeswalker. And like for only 2 mana at instant speed. And like the downside of like having to discard a card or 3 life is fucking negligible. It's nothing whatsoever. I think it's just because like the rarity, I think, that people aren't talking about this card. This card is fucking good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, that being said, let's talk about a black card that has a bit more awareness and visibility within the community. Let's talk about Bloodletter of... Oh shit, I need to pull up the pronunciation guide. Thank you, Aquazots. So, it is a vampire demon for 2/4. 4 mana 2/4, kind of bad. However, it has flying and it has a really strong static ability. It says, if an opponent will lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. This is pretty strong. I don't know, it's very much a commander value card. Like, during your turn, you can oftentimes cast various spells that like make your opponents lose life, and then Bloodletter of Aclazots is gonna like essentially double the life loss, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's often a down, or not a downside necessarily for black spells, but like a lot of black spells just kind of have the caveat of like, and lose X life tacked onto it. So it's like, in a deck that is certainly about draining life, this card is strong. I mean, Shieldred, like, okay, draw a card, lose 4 life. Sounds good.
Yeah, I also think about, like, when I look at Bloodletter of Aclazots, I think of things like Wound Reflection, which basically loses you twice as much life whenever you lose life, essentially. I don't remember the exact text.
Mm-hmm.
Which is bad because I'm drunk and I can't remember the exact text, but it's basically like, that enchantment at least requires you to wait until the end step, whereas this Vampire Demon is like, no, don't even wait till the end step. Whenever you lose life, you just straight up lose that life, so you don't have to wait until the end step to lose. Am I wrong?
No, that is kind of nice too, is as to Wound Reflection is at the beginning of the end step. This is, just instead, once you lose that life, it is double.
Mm-hmm. So every once in a while, I expect to see Bloodletter of Aclazots.
Alright, and now another Vampire Demon, Bringer of the Last Gift. 6 black, creature Vampire Demon, flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, each player sacrifices all other creatures they control. Then each player returns all creatures from their graveyard that weren't put there this way to the battlefield. And it's a 6/6. So this is basically Living Death and Living End on a stick. And those are some pretty popular commander cards. I know that they get reprinted quite often. Was reprinted in the Lord of the Rings precon, Warhammer precon. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Living End is pretty popular in other formats because you can cascade into it. However, Living Death is a 5-mana sorcery that says each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, and then puts all creatures they exiled this way onto the battlefield. So it basically switches the graveyard with the battlefield, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's Living Death, remember? And so Bringer of the Last Gift is basically that effect on an 8-mana flying creature. So I can see it where, like, if you already played Living Death and you want a second copy, you now have Bringer of the Last Gift, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm happy for you. But at the same time, like, this Bringer of the Last Gift is not abusable because of a few small words. Specifically, the part where it says, if you cast it. Those 4 words between the parentheses makes it so, like, you can't just, like, abuse the enter the battlefield effect. So, because of that, I'm not as stoked about this, like, high mana value card. However, like, this art, like, I know a lot of people were very excited about this art, and I am too. However, if you go onto, like, the artist's Twitter page, this art for Bringer of the Last Gift is very tame compared to the hardcore shit that they draw. Holy fuck. This artist is so talented, and I want you to go onto their Twitter so you can just see how fucking hard they go. Because wow, this is amazing.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out after we're done recording. I don't think I've seen this artist before.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh my gosh, Bringer of the Last Gift art goes so hard. It's like, motherfucker, did you go through their Twitter account? Do you see how hard their art goes? You clearly did not, because their art goes so dark and so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's all I'll say. It's like, holy shit, no wonder the rest of their art has not been printed by WotC. Oh! Anyway, so the next card we have is Chupacabra Echo. It is 2 black for a creature, beast, or a spirit for a 3/2 that says when the Chupacabra enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So, the art is of like a ghost spirit skeleton with like a couple arrows in it to signify that it truly is dead. And like, it's obviously like a riff on Ravenous Chupacabra, which is a super powerful card back in original Ixalan as a creature-based removal spell. Am I wrong?
I mean, I remember it being a pretty popular card. I don't know if I would have said like super powerful though, but it is good.
I guess I'm just kind of used to it where like my opponents would constantly reanimate Ravenous Chupacabra, and like I'm just like, oh, I just can't have any more creatures anymore. Okay,
yeah,
that's where I come from.
So you just have some beef.
I just have some personal beef where I'm like, oh, this thing is gonna like recur as long as you have enough graveyard value. Like you can just kill a creature over and over and over again, which is cool. I like homages to previous commander cards. Like I like it when Magic the Gathering can like poke fun at itself or like acknowledge its previous iterations, whether it's a mistake or a past missed opportunity. Alright, the next card we have is Tarian's Journal. It is 1 and a black for a legendary artifact that says tap, sacrifice another artifact or creature, draw a card, activate only as a sorcery, or 2 and tap, discard your hand, transform the journal, and then it transforms into a legendary land cave. Which, if you didn't know this by now, this set has a good number of caves. It taps for add black, or you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield with a finality counter on it, and is a vampire in addition to its other types. If a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. Guy, what do you think of this card?
I do like how the discard your hand, it's... I guess the biggest downside is like if you're going to discard your hand and then you do the transform thing, is that this card then comes in tapped, so you can't immediately, cast a creature spell from your graveyard. But I do think it is a very easy way of being able to take a bunch of cards and then get them into your graveyard as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of curious because the backside of this card where it's land is very reminiscent of Volrath's Stronghold, which is a reserve list card, so it's a lot of money. Volrath's Stronghold returns like a creature to the top of your library. This is even better, where it returns the creature to the battlefield just with a finality counter, so if it dies, it like truly dies and can't be reanimated. I guess the additional downside to like this new card is that the journal says like you have to discard your entire hand in order to transform it, and I feel like very rarely do you want to sacrifice all of your card advantage in order to make this a land. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant, was like it is nice to be able to dump your hand if you're trying to do that, but you're not going to be able to take the full advantage of the casting a creature from the graveyard because of transforming it.
Alright, so I'm glad we're in agreement. Alright, Guy, we're moving into the red section. Honestly, can I be real with you? I want you to read the entire red section, and I will interject every now and then with my personal thoughts. Is that okay with you?
Oh yeah, okay. So,
because I'm excited for you.
Yeah, we got some bangers in this set. This first one is Bonehard Dracosaur, 3 red, creature, dinosaur, dragon, flying, first strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exiled a land card this way, create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. If you exiled a non-land card this way, create a treasure token, and it's a 5/5. So, this card is straight value. The biggest downside to this is the fact that it is not immediate. It does say at the beginning of your upkeep. So this thing does need to stick around for a full turn cycle.
It does have to stay alive for an entire rotation of the table as a 5 mana value spell.
Yes, and personally for me, I don't think it makes quite the cut of going into Perforos because of
Really?
that. I really do want my spells to have like the most immediate impact when I play them, because I don't think I can afford to wait a full turn cycle, and this is already at the highest end of the mana curve that I am thinking of even playing, which is 5. If this was 4 mana, I would maybe consider it. But
shit.
Yeah.
Has Commander gotten to the point where you can't accept 5 mana do-nothings? And that's a big question to ask, and I don't want you to necessarily answer it, but I just want to put that out there. Are we at the point where we can't? Are we at the point where we can't cast 5 mana do-nothings, quote unquote?
It's tough to say because I don't want to get into it too much, because it's not just when you think about a full turn cycle, it's not just it's each of your opponent. Like, you're giving 3 people the opportunity, and I guess the one thing is they have to kind of talk amongst themselves and say who's going to deal with this, because someone has to deal with this. But if we don't, then he might run away with the game, because this basically draws you 2 cards, gives you another body, and gives you mana potentially. Or it gives you 2 bodies, 2 mana. This thing can get out of hand, so it is something that certainly, once it hits the field, is a target on your back, or its back.
All right, I'll read the next card. Is that okay?
Sure.
No, I want you to read it. I lied.
Okay, this one I'm definitely considering and going to test out. So this is Brass's Tunnel Grinder, 2 and a red, legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards +1. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, put a board counter on Brass's Tunnel Grinder. Then if there are 3 or more board counters on it, remove those counters and transform it. And then it becomes Techliton. There you go. The Searing Rift, legendary land cave. Tap, add red. Whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by the Searing Rift, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. So it's basically saying that, for every spell you cast, you get a free extra spell. It's like giving it Cascade. And the front side is a wheel, so you almost immediately will put a board counter on this. You'll draw that many cards. It's card neutral because you're drawing that many cards +1. I think this is a slam dunk. I like the basically wheel effects that are 3 mana, because it is giving people the ability to have powerful wheels that aren't Wheel of Fortune, because the card's so expensive. So I like this.
Yeah, whenever you can not be dependent upon reserve list cards, I'm generally in favor of it. I agree.
Yeah.
Alright, can I read this last card?
Well, we got 2 more actually, but you can read this next one, and then I'll read the one after that.
You're right. So let me just check the pronunciation guide. Oh, I'm glad I did, because it is relevant. So this card I'm going to read is called Zoyowa's Justice. Zoyowa's Justice. Yes?
Yes.
So Yowa's Justice is 1 and a red for an instant that says, the owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. Then, that player discovers X where X is its mana value. And the reminder text says, they exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with the mana value or less. They cast it without paying their mana cost, or put it onto their hand. They put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So it's basically like a Chaos Warp for instant speed, low mana value interaction, right? And say it only applies to artifacts or creatures, right? So that's kind of the downside. But at the same time, if they cast an artifact or creature, it's pretty much guaranteed to be applicable because it's almost always going to be 1 or more mana value. So, that being the case, you can basically quote-unquote polymorph the effect, which is not what the opponent wants, and there's the chance it's going to be stronger, but most of the time it's going to be weaker, right? Tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, I also like how it's a pseudo kind of red blink effect, in a way, where I would use this on a lot of my creatures that would have an immediate impact when they hit the field, and then they're basically vanillas. So I would then use it on myself most of the times, where I would then, shuffle the... Seasoned Pyromancer, I guess, is a good example, or Imperial Recruiter.
So I'm thinking more defensively, and you're thinking more offensively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this. I think... it's definitely one that I'm also considering testing out, because it can work on my stuff. Alright, this last red card is Scytheclaw Raptor. It's 2 and a red, creature dinosaur. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them, and it's a 4/3. I mean, there's not a lot to say, but I think that this is actually pretty decent, where it's on the lines of Grand Abolisher and cards that say don't cast stuff during not your turn, or else you're going to get hurt. Now you just have to always now consider, is this really worth 4 damage? So I like this. I like this as a kind of counteractive. It's almost like Price of Glory, where whenever they would tap a land during not their turn, they'd have to sacrifice the land. But this being a creature, I like a little more because it's a creature and it's going to be dealing damage.
I will say I played in the pre-release, and this came up a number of times, and I was like, oh my god, if I cast this flash spell not during my turn, I'm just gonna lose a quarter of my life, and I'm just gonna lose. And I was like, God damn it. And I'm not used to playing sealed because I'm mostly a commander player, but I was like, fuck. So 4 damage is 1/10 of your commander's life total, right? So I don't know if you're an instant. If you're in an instant heavy deck, you're oh fuck, I'm gonna lose so much life. You can maybe take out 1 opponent, right? In an average commander pod.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing too is it's not just I primarily am using this to discourage people from playing during my turn, but it's not going to stop people from not wanting to cast stuff on their opponent's turn, where then they would also get hurt. So, if you go and you start playing stuff and then Park's oh, I want to counter that, but wait, guy has that raptor, and it's going to deal 4 damage to me.
Yep. Can we move on to the next category?
Yep.
Alright, so this next category we have is called green. Go figure. And we have Glimpse the Core. It is 1 and a green for a sorcery that says choose 1. And the first choice is search your library for a basic forest card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, which is what you're going to do most of the time, let's be real. And then the second ability is return target cave from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, this is basically a 1 and a green for a sorcery that says search your library for a basic forest, put that card on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And so it's basically a rampant growth, which is super duper popular in the Commander format.
Never heard of it.
Shut the fuck up. And so then after that you have more powerful effects like Farseek, Sakura Tri-Builder, and 3 visits. So if you're playing Rampant Growth, congratulations, now you have Glimpse of the Core. Glimpse the Core, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one worth considering, since typically we don't see 2 mana spells that do this anymore. But I also think getting the cave back might be relevant, because there's this cave cycle that can do the discover effect, and that just asks you to sacrifice those. So
how many caves are there? How many caves are there?
I think 20.
Is it that many? Fuck.
There was a decent number, because it's also, I guess, caves on the front side might be less, because there are a lot of caves on the back side.
It's cards. 18.
Well, it wouldn't get cards like Brass Tunnel, Grinder, or Dowsing Device. So it's actually going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14. And then, how many of these actually sacrifice themselves?
I think you should view this as I talked about, a 2 mana sorcery that searches you a basic forest. I thought that's what you should focus on.
Oh yeah, that is the primary thing, but I think the fact that it has this second part is an upside.
Listen to me, guy. It's not like caves are the next gate, okay? Gates suck to when you the game. Caves are the next less suckest, okay?
Why? Okay. I feel like you're hating on gates for no reason.
Gates suck ass.
Oh my god. Read the next
Fight me.
Oh no, I'm gonna read the next card. This is the Skullspore Nexus. It's 6
Yeah, you
green
better
green.
fucking run.
Just
read the goddamn card.
I'm trying to, but you're... Alright, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. And then it's 2 tap, double target creature's power until end of turn. So, I think the big thing is, yes, this does cost X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Oftentimes you can get this for green. That is very similar to the Great Henge. I, however, don't think that it's, necessarily a 1-for-1 in that way, other than the mana reducing, because this is asking you to, make big creatures attack a bunch. The Great Henge is a ramp spell, and also then can draw you a bunch of cards. So I think this is good, but it's not Great Henge good.
I agree. I feel like the best comparison is the Great Henge, considering they're almost the same mana cost. They are both legendary artifacts. They both have the same initial static ability of reducing their cost. But the Great Henge is a mana rock and a card advantage engine, whereas the Skullspore Nexus is primarily a token generator and then a creature power doubler, which is not as powerful. That being said, I in a specific deck, I can see the Skullspore Nexus being a powerful card. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
not
the Great Henge where it's holy shit, this card is fucking broken, and everybody knew it upon release and bought the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so I'll move on to the next card, which is called Spelunking, which is 2 and a green for an enchantment, 11 enchantments. It says, whenever Spelunking enters the battlefield, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put a cave onto the battlefield, you may gain 4 life. And then the second line of text says, lands you control enter the battlefield tapped. Oh boy, I have a whole lot of thoughts about this card, which I probably should not have. So, this is a 3-mana enchantment that says, like, oh, you play this card, then, like, you don't draw a card to replace it unless you had a cave. And, like, outside of this set, like, you're not gonna fucking have a cave. Let's be real here, you piece of shit. Alright?
Yeah, they're the suckiest type of card.
You don't have a cave, so you're not going to replace this. You're not going to gain 4 life. So, like, all this really is a 3-mana enchantment that says, lands you control enter the battlefield tapped. Alright? Let's be real here. And so, like, the closest comparison is Amulet of Vigor. And Amulet of Vigor is, like, basically, like, what? A 1-mana artifact that says, like, all permanents you control enter the battlefield untapped? That's so much stronger. That just applies to all unland, like, all non-land permanents. Not even, like, not even lands. So, like, Spelunking, I wish I loved this. Like, I love enchantments. You know me, guy. Tell me I don't love enchantments. I'm a whore for enchantments. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you are the sluttiest for enchantments.
I love enchantments. However, like, in the Commander format, where, like, I am also a little bit of a tryhard, where, like, as long as you have, like, a 2 mana base, where, like, most Commander players have a 2 mana base, no matter what the color identity is, like, you don't need this card. Similar how, like, if you have a 2 mana base, you don't need Amulet of Vigor in most decks, unless you, like, care about multiple permanents across multiple card types. Like, you don't need this. You don't need this in, like, your land-focused deck. You don't need Amulet of Vigor in your land-focused deck, because you've already, like, optimized it to the fucking max, and, like, you don't need Spelunking. Fuck you.
Wow.
I will fight you.
I don't want to run this card. It's okay.
What do you mean, guy? Let me let you run this so I can fight the shit out of you.
Oh my god. Okay.
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. You piece of shit.
Oh
Let me fight you.
Where is all this aggression coming from? I just said that,
I don't know.
all I did was bring up the fact that, like, caves were a viable option on the second the second option of that Glimpse the Core card, and now Blake wants to kill me.
Talk about this next card.
Oh my god! Twists and Turns, green, enchantment. If a creature you control would explore, instead you scry one, then that creature explores. When Twists and Turns enters the battlefield, target creature you control explores. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, transform Twists and Turns. Then it transforms into Blake's favorite card type, Cave. Tap green, and then 3 green, 3 and a green. Tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, this does ask you to want to play a lot of explorers. And I mean, you know, when creatures enter the battlefield, you do get to explore. It is nice that you do get to kind of choose or see preemptively beforehand. So you could really, like, stack it how you want, whether it's, like, get the land or put the +1/+1 counter on it. But, yeah. I feel like the backside's okay. Like, it's 4 mana to look at the top 4 cards, and you get a creature from that. But, yeah.
Yeah, so I like the fact that it's a single green mana to cast. I like that it's an enchantment, because I'm set for enchantments. The thing I'm concerned about is the fact that, like, if a creature you control explores, because explore is not a very common mechanic in the Commander format. So, like, unless it's, like, one of those blue-green commanders that explores, it's probably not going to do any shit. I like the fact that, like, when it enters the battlefield, target creature explores, but that's not enough to, like, trigger it. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands. I do like that last part where it's like, okay, as long as it's like the late game, you can transform it. And like, then it ramps you as a maze. Cave? Sorry. Mostly a cave. Yes, it's not technically a maze in the creature type, I'm sorry. But like, the art looks like a maze. And then, the activated ability is 3 and a green. Look at the top 4 cards from your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them. Put that card in your hand, then put the rest on the bottom of the library in random order. So like, it is card advantage. Like, I like the fact that it's like a 1 mana enchantment, because I love that shit. But like, you gotta put this in the right deck. Like, Growing Lock, Gaia's Cradle, like, you play those other cards first. Go fuck yourself.
Alright. Wise words from Blake. What's this last green card?
In remembrance, go fuck yourself. So this is Tributary Instigator. It is 3 and a green for a creature that's a Merfolk Shaman. That's a 4/4. So 4 mana 4/4, that's pretty good. It has Mentor. So whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. And then it says, this is the main text that says, whenever creature you control with +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. I can't fucking tell you how many times I have played against a +1/+1 counter deck, like where their creature dies, and they're like, oh my god, I have so much value. Oh no, my creature died. Tributary Instigator will draw me a card. Oh no. Go fuck yourself.
So you like this card or you don't like this card?
I both am happy and also saddened by this card existing, because like my friend Park, who I've mentioned numerous times on this podcast, has a +1/+1 counter deck, and he will draw a shit ton of cards even when I board wipe him of all his bullshit creatures. So yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's cute that it has the Mentor ability. It's something that I've seen a little bit since.
I fucking hate it.
Okay, so Blake hates it.
Go fuck yourself, Park. I will kill you in L.
I'm glad that you said that, at least to the fact that, like, okay, it's not just me that Blake wants to kill.
No, Guy, I love you. You're the best.
I'm pretty sure, like, a few cards ago you were just telling me, go fuck yourself. Like, I'll kill you. Yeah, you better run.
Guy, don't even worry about it.
Okay, I won't. Alright. We're almost there.
Yeah, we're in the multicolor section.
Yes, the very short multicolor section.
It is very short, holy shit. It's mostly colors. Wow.
Alright. So, our one multicolor card we're going over is Squirming Emergence, 1 black-green, sorcery, and it says Fathomless Descent. Return to the battlefield target non-land permanent card in your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So, this is pretty strong just because it's not specifically creatures. It can be any permanent type that's non-land, so it could be artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, battles, and yeah, that's it. But it also can like scale well, so like closer to the end game, like, you know, when you have, I don't know, like 10 permanents in your graveyard, you play this for 3, get something back that has 10 mana value, boom. Or I guess it has to be less than, so 9 mana value, boom.
Honestly, I know a number of people have been comparing this to Savine's Reclamation. That's a fair comparison in terms of like reanimating, right? But like the point where this fails in comparison is like the fact that you can't flash back Squirming Emergence, because again, it's a 3 mana sorcery. However, like, Guy, what do you remember as the last like Golgari sorcery speed like arguable staple in the format? I want you to tell me.
Culling Ritual, which is the one where it's like destroy all things with like what exactly? It's basically a huge ritual effect that mana value 2 or less, and then you add like a combination of black and green.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Where like Culling Ritual was like a huge, big deal in terms of like the world of board wipes. Like it was a 4 mana sorcery, and it gave you a bunch of mana, and like you could often win the game off of that. But like Squirming Emergence is not that. It's very much like more of a recursion spell at sorcery speed. It's 3 mana. It's much more quote unquote fair. But like it's still a very powerful effect, am I wrong?
No.
No. And also it has some of the best flavor text in all time, where like due to archaic brazen coalition guidelines regarding hats, a few mycoids are now technically pirate captains. And it's like this is the skull with like tentacle like mushroom legs and like technically a pirate, and like I love that shit. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not. Fuck you.
Blake's very adamant about fuck you, this podcast. Alright. Colorless. Let's go.
Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh god. Kill me.
This is probably the worst card.
Why did they give Park this card? Tell me, guy. Why did they give Park this card? He didn't need it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you like one of my big grievances with this once you read it.
Alright, so this is Chimil, the Inner Sun. It is a 6 mana legendary artifact that says spells you control can't be countered. Alright? And then at the beginning of your end step, discover 5. Remember, discover 5 is basically fixed Cascade 5. Alright? I'm not going to read the rest of that shit. So like, my friend Park has a colorless deck where like it's all about ramp and you play a bunch of powerful bullshit. And like, now he has a 6 mana legendary artifact that says like his spells can't be countered, which is one of the saving graces I had. And now it's like at the end of his every end step, he discovers 5, which he did not need. He very much was like cheating shit into play, regardless of this card. And now I'm like, motherfucker. Now I gotta now all my counter magic is useless. Now I have to like also get around the fact that he's like cheating things into play on his end step. Motherfucker, go fuck yourself. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with this card is like, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I want to play Bonehorde Dracosaur because it's like, oh, I have to wait a full turn cycle because, you know, that's at the beginning of the upkeep. No, this card's just like, oh yeah, at the beginning of your end step, like, go for it. It's like, okay, why does he get that, you know, now, but I have to wait a full turn cycle for arguably a less powerful effect. So, yeah, it's kind of stupid.
Alright, so we'll probably have Park on for the next episode. Meanwhile, go fuck yourself, Park! Why you're not here. Yeah. Alright, so this next card is called... I need to look at the pronunciation guide so I don't do bad things. Ma-Za-Lan Tli, the Great Door, is a legendary artifact that says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. So it's looting, right? But it says 4, tap, transform the card, activate only if 4 or more permanent types among cards in your graveyard, which isn't that hard to do. And then it turns into a legendary land called the Core that says, Fathomless Descent, add X mana of any one color where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard, which is super reminiscent to Nick. Okay, Guy, I want your input on this so I'm not going fucking insane. This is really similar to Nykthos Shrine Nyxt. Yes, no.
I almost think it's better. Because Nykthos requires you to have cards on the field, and it also needs, you know, 2 mana to activate it. So oftentimes it's like it really costs 3 mana to activate, and you want to be able to at least hit 4. Where you know, this is just saying like, yeah, tap it, and it's not gonna matter if there's nothing on your board the next turn, and if there's even less, then like there's gonna be more cards. Yeah, no, this card's good.
Yeah, so fuck. It's hard for me to judge this card. But like, it's super easy to transform, and it doesn't transform back, and it basically turns into a Nykthos. And as everybody knows, like, mono green can like best abuse Nykthos. So I'm curious if like mono green decks are going to start abusing the core. What do you think? Do you think mono green decks are going to start abusing the core because they're so creature heavy? Or do you feel like a lot of mono green decks are going to be diverse enough for like they have an artifact there, they have a creature there, they have a planeswalker there, they have an enchantment there, that like they can get there? Artifact, battle, creature, enchantment, land, and planeswalker. That's 6 out of 4. Do you think most monocolor decks, especially in green, can get there?
It's tough. I feel like
that's why I think Nykthos is more powerful than. That's why I think Nykthos is more powerful than the core.
I see. I mean, I think. Well, if you're only thinking in mono green, then yeah, I'd rather run Nykthos. But if we're thinking in like general, any color, I feel like this might be just because this also does have the draw a card, then discard a card on the front side. So it does some work for you in the beginning.
So what do you think of this next card? Read it aloud.
Alright, we got Roaming Throne, which is a 4 mana artifact creature golem, has Ward 2. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So it's basically Panharmonicon on a stick. I like it, and I really wanted to run it, but in Perforos, I would name it God, so I would make this thing a God. But most of the time I don't want Perforos to be a creature, so this wouldn't then trigger for him when he's, just an enchantment.
I think this Roaming Throne is particularly strong in typal decks, kindred decks, where like not only is your commander the specific creature type, but also the rest of your deck is also that same creature type. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it does do well in typal decks, for sure.
Yeah, and so like the nearest comparison I have at this current moment in time, and this will probably change as time goes forward, is Harmonic Prodigy, where like you want to compare like every single shaman ETB against the same, or Nabonding iteration, where like you want to compare like every single wizard ETB to each other is doubled. This is very strong, where like if you're a commander focused deck and like you don't really have that much support, you're probably playing Roaming Throne as like your way of like doubling your commander's triggers. Am I wrong?
No. And
so like as time goes forward, hopefully those decks get more support and they are less reliant on Roaming Throne, and hopefully they get more and more creature type support as time moves forward. And like, yeah, that's where I'm kind of at, where like this is a good like midway support through the years.
This next one is insane.
Fuck.
Like, I initially was like, why did Blake include this card? And then I read it, and I was like, wait, what?
Tell me I'm crazy for including this card.
No, talk about it.
Alright, so this card is called Terrain's Soul Cleaver is a single colorless mana for a legendary artifact equipment that says equipped creature has vigilance. Alright, whatever, we don't care. Whenever another artifact or creature is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+2 counter on equipped creature, equipped 2. So, this is a 1 mana equipment that only takes 2 to equip, and it gives vigilance, but on top of that, the most important ability is the fact that whenever any artifact or creature, depending on your board or your opponent's board, even in multiplayer formats, like, you're going to be putting +1/+1 counters on that creature, especially if that creature cares about +1/+1 counters specifically to begin with. This is very, very strong. So, like, consider this in your decks. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, like, it's from anywhere, I mean, not from anywhere, but it's like any opponent, so treasure tokens or clue tokens, map tokens, things like that, that's gonna, like, put +1/+1 counters on your creature, but it's also, you know, so you do it, your creature gets, like, 5 +1/+1 counters, then you move it to a different creature. The creature that got the 5 counters to begin with gets to keep those. So it's just like, okay, I pump up my creature this turn after this, you know, round of turn cycle, move it to a different creature. That creature's going to get big, and they just keep the counters. It's not like they lose the counters when the equipment comes off. Yeah, no, it's stupid good. Alright. So, you know, Blake said lands fucking suck or something like that earlier this
Lands do fucking suck. Tell me I'm wrong, you piece of shit.
So, yeah, let's talk about this cave. Echoing Deeps.
I didn't ask you that. Okay.
You may have Echoing Deeps enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land card in a graveyard, except it's a cave in addition to its other types. And then it can tap and give you colorless. So, yeah, I mean, it's a Vesuva for the graveyard. And, I mean, if anything, like, this can just become like a fetch land. Go and find you something that you need, you know?
Like, if you've ever wanted to, like, double up your lands for, like, some land bullshit shenanigans, this is definitely, like, what you wanted for a long, long time. This is the first time that you've really had the ability to copy a land that was in the graveyard. Like, you've always had the ability to copy it, like, if it's already in play with Vesuva, but, like, with Echoing Depths, this is the first time, like, you've been able to copy a land that's in the graveyard, which is very, very strong. Like, maybe your opponent has, like, a guy's cradle in the graveyard, because, like, your other opponent, like, strip mined it or whatever. Like, that's really, really strong. Am I wrong?
No, I think this is very strong. And it doesn't even matter if it's your graveyard, it's anyone's graveyard.
So, because of that very reason, like, I'm pretty excited about this card.
Yeah. And we got one more cave to talk about. Why don't you do the honors?
Alright, so this is Volatile Fault. It is a land cave for tapping, add a colorless, and it says 1 and tap, sacrifice Volatile Fault, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. You create a treasure token. So, this is, in the world of Commander, this is kind of a complicated card, where, like, the stronger versions of this card are Strip Mine, Wasteland, arguably Ghost Quarter, and then the weaker cards of this kind of effect are Tectonic Edge, Demolition Field, Field of Ruin. So, it's right in the middle of, like, if you need a whole shit ton of, like, specific land removal, you probably play this card. And if you don't need a shit ton of land removal for your opponents, you probably don't play this card. It's like in this awkward middle zone, where, like, 1 and tap is a high cost compared to, like, Strip Mine, Wasteland, and Ghost Quarter. But, like, it's really, really efficient compared to Tectonic Edge and Demolition Field and Field of Ruin. Guy, please chime in here so I don't sound crazy.
No, I like how it also gives you the treasure token back as a way of saying, like, you know, you just sacrifice this land, at least you're not going to be totally mana screwed when you come back around.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's kind of in that middle ground. I mean, you know, this is a good way of trying to get rid of the gods, too, you know? When they're in their land form.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts about this set in terms of commanders or the 99 that we have not already discussed?
I mean, I was just gonna ask, do you have a favorite 99 card that you're looking forward to using, or one that you think is the most powerful?
I think I'm probably looking forward either like Kudzil, Melamet, Exemplar, just because like I have an existing deck that really wants it. In terms of like Sigarda Enchantress. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay, so I will ask this question upon you, Guy. Is there a commander card that you're looking forward to in the 99, or is the commander that you're looking forward to the most?
I think Brass's Tunnel Grinder is the card I'm looking forward to the most testing out, just because it's a wheel effect that can turn into a land later in the game, and basically it'll buy back you most of your spells. I think that's up there. The Scytheclaw Raptor, also really like that, so yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm good. Because I was really concerned that like I was the only one that was going to be excited about this order of set.
No, I think of the sets, and we'll talk about this more during our end of the year review, but I think it's a close call between March of the Machines and this set as in favorite sets of the year for me.
Okay. Good. Like I am really curious to like how the end of year review is going to be for us, because like those are the few episodes that I actually like re-listen to for our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
So,
Well, do you want to close this out?
overall, I'm pretty happy with this set. I am pretty happy with the 99 cards. And if you are not, more peace to you. Like, this is one of the few sets where I'm like, alright, it's heavy Magic IP, and we got there, and I'm very happy with, like, my friends and my partners that I've got here with. If you're not happy, more power to you. I wish you happiness in other aspects.
I honestly thought you were going to say go fuck yourself, because of
I was
how
trying to
much
be
you were
nice!
saying that. No, you did a good job. So, color me impressed.
Guy, go fuck yourself.
Alright. We are the Wizard Staff Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a like and review. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WizardStaff101. Send us an email at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com if you want to bitch and complain about how stupid we are. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great night. Peace.
Peace.